Hi, my name is Phil. I like to talk about politics. In this video I'd like to discuss the extra difficulties that we are having in retaining healthcare staff during this time of public health emergency because the Home Office on this occasion is making a mess of its relatively simple healthcare worker visa policy. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the situation facing our NHS at the onset of this crisis, that we were already short of over 100,000 NHS staff, including tens of thousands of nurses and doctors. So that was already a staffing crisis for predictable healthcare needs for the UK that we of course were not going to be able to meet because, do you know what? Tens of thousands of nurses, tens of thousands of doctors short. Then there was a trend towards greater shortages over the last few years as applications for nurse training in Britain has been down, possibly due in part to the fact that bursaries were removed. Although Boris Johnson's government say they've reinstated them, that's only having a limited effect because they still leave with massive debts. Really, we just need to make training completely free for the people that we need in society, and we need a lot of nurses in society, so it hasn't really solved the problem as yet. In addition, nurses and doctors from abroad have been leaving the country rather than work here, where they've suddenly become open to abuse in public after the 2016 Brexit referendum. Then we have a somewhat unexpected public health emergency in the form of the coronavirus pandemic. We tried to recruit retired medics, which worked in part. We have had people who used to work in the NHS coming back. Unfortunately, we are somewhat undermining this process of bolstering numbers by killing off medics due to a criminally negligent lack of PPE provision, something the government have tried to defend, but the fact remains that whatever defence they try to put up, which on the face of it might sound reasonable to some, similarly wealthy nations in Europe are managing to acquire those stocks. So what is different about the UK? We just seem to be making excuses. And as if the Treasury and the Health Department weren't enough to make an already challenging time for any healthcare system even more difficult, the Home Office has decided to get on the act as well, because we do still have, thankfully, a lot of foreign nurses and doctors and paramedics in the NHS. And we should be especially grateful at this time that they are choosing to stay. And remember what they are choosing to do. These are highly trained staff, many of whom have been described officially by the government as being unskilled, and quite recently as well, who are choosing to live and work in a country where they face open abuse from sections of the small-minded public and are not getting the protective equipment that they would be getting if they were working in their countries of origin. Now, the very least we can do, I would argue, is to not add extra difficulties into their already precarious lives. So, of course, foreign workers will be here with visas. And it looked like Priti Patel had heeded the message by saying that all NHS workers whose visas were going to expire before October would automatically have those visas extended for 1 year free of charge. Automatic and free of charge. Now, what does that mean? If you are an NHS worker in such a situation, it means you don't have to do anything. It's automatic, so no forms to fill in, free of charge, don't even have to make a payment. So you don't have to do anything. Yes, that was the least the government could do, but still, credit where it's due, they did it, good policy, great, fantastic. That was announced 3 weeks ago. So, is this what the Home Office have done? After all, it's what the Home Secretary said she was going to do. No, they've not done that. It's only applying to certain NHS workers. And it's not based on what role they perform in the NHS, by the way. It's based entirely on what sort of visa they have. It's just entirely down to the nature of their visa. But the Home Secretary announced it. We've had an announcement from the Secretary of State, but of course that doesn't automatically mean that it will be actioned. So on top of everything else, we are now about to face the ludicrous situation at some point over the next few months, you would think, whereby the UK government are going to write letters to forcibly deport NHS medics because Boris Johnson decided to occupy the major offices of state with the most airheaded bubble brains that he could find in Parliament. And this is going to happen. The problem is, like I say, so if you just listened to the announcement from Patel and you are an NHS worker whose visa will be up for renewal in the next few months, you've listened to that statement, automatic, free of charge. I don't have to do anything. It's all going to be taken care of. Of course you would assume that the Home Secretary publicly said so. I don't want people saying, well, they should have checked. Why would you check? This is the Home Secretary. This is the person who just has to go to her staff in the civil service and say, I have announced this a policy, make it so, bring me the stuff and I'll sign it. That's all, that's it. You would assume that that is going to happen. So inevitably, you will suddenly find your visa expiring unexpectedly. You knew it was going to expire on a certain date, but you have been told that it's going to be automatically free of charge, extended for a year. And you're going to find yourself with an order to remove yourself from the country forthwith. And we know that this will happen because stories abound of people with valid visas, valid rights to stay, being told to leave the country all the time. Recently, an American woman with no conviction, she'd not done anything wrong, who had been given leave to stay in the UK until 2021 and was living with her Scottish partner, so she's making a home for herself here, was served with a deportation order because of a clear failure to apply a policy correctly. Basically, someone stamped her passport incorrectly when she returned from the United States, where she'd been to care for her sister who'd been diagnosed with cancer. And yet, as obvious as it was that there'd been a bit of a miscommunication, a bit of a cock-up, she's still been told to piss off out of the country, even after appeal. During a global pandemic, when unnecessary travel is said to be discouraged, no, can you go to the airport please and go to another country where you've got nowhere to live, because you can't just put yourself up in a hotel or anything because they're all closed over there as well. So this is the situation we have at the Home Office right now. All part of the hostile environment policy, an official policy that the government has, whereby the Home Office staff are required to begin, when considering cases for appeal, they are told to begin from the position that the person should be deported. That is the assumption they have to go into these appeals with. And although the Home Office has reminded us that the Home Secretary can intervene in individual cases, why on earth would we rely on that? Because she doesn't intervene in cases even when they're brought to her attention via the national press for clear miscarriages of justice. And also she doesn't need to intervene in individual cases. She needs to intervene right now and put into practice the policy that she announced 3 weeks ago. And like I say, this is not difficult. She simply has to say to her staff, hang on a minute, this is the policy I announced 3 weeks ago. Why isn't it the case? And if they just say, well, you didn't sign the thing, well, I'll sign it now. And then it's done. Because announcing a policy that is not implemented is going to create a lot of cases of people unwittingly allowing their visas to expire. And for the rest of us in the UK, when are we going to start seeing this Conservative Party for what it is in terms of its relationship with the NHS? It's a party that runs a government that allows a shortage of medics to run into the tens of thousands, that fails to provide PPE that every other developed nation has been able to source. And it should be easier for us. We don't have as much staff for it to go around. That refuses to test people that need it during a pandemic where the only way to beat it is to test it. And the government don't deny that. They don't try and say anything different. They say that the way to beat it is to test. So why aren't they doing it? And also a party that puts in place a policy that could almost have been designed to deport hard-working, law-abiding NHS workers. Two descriptions that don't really seem to apply to any of the current cabinet government ministers at the moment. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.